Hello again, I'm Stephen Wells, the host of the Motoring Weekly podcast for the Australian Historic Road and Racing community. This week I attended a track day with the Gear Club at Sydney Motorsports Park. Listen to episode 148 to find out more about the Gear Club. In the meantime, listen to this interview with one of the drivers. So with Guy Thomson and his 1962 Tornado Talisman, something I've never seen before, so it's always a thrill to see something you've not seen anywhere else. Can you tell me something about the car?
Yeah, the car is one of 168 that were built between 1960 and 1964 by a small company in England that used to make fiberglass bodies in the 50s for Ford Populars and things, and then they built the whole car in-house. Built very much like a Lotus with pipe frame, Triumph Herald suspension. They originally had an Anglia engine, now this one's got a 1600 crossflow Ford motor. And they built 168 of them. There's only 4 of them in Australia. 2 of them are going. One's a basket case in Brisbane, and the other's a basket case that we haven't seen for 30 years, so we don't know if it still exists. And they're quite a pretty car because they're British, but they don't look British. They've obviously taken a lot of styling clues from European cars. The chap who was in charge of the firm was a bloke called Bill Woodhouse, and he, when in '64 they realised they weren't going to make their millions, they got out of it, and he then went and worked for Aston Martin for the rest of his working life, and ended up 2IC of Aston Martin. So he obviously had an eye for cars, except having said that, he was also in Aston Martin when they built the Lagondas, which were the horriblest looking things that they made. So that's it. It's very fun to drive, very much like Lotus. When they were being built, Chapman was building the Lotus Land, and they were in the same fiberglass body shops, and these were coming out of the mould pretty well, and the Lotus Lands weren't coming out of the moulds very well. Rumour has it that Chapman would walk past and pretend to lay the boot into these things. But it's just a very pleasant car to drive. They're actually a 4-seater, even though it doesn't look like it. There was little tiny seats in the back, and one of their claims to fame in their advertising was that they were the first 4-seater car that Cosworth breathed on, because when they were new, Cosworth put twin carbies, a cam and an aluminium tappet cover on, and so they because Cosworth was in its very early days back then as well. So and that's one of their advertising claims, was that they were the first 4-seater car that Cosworth had played around with. But it's quite a good, reliable thing to drive. You can get parts for it because it's Triumph Herald, mostly suspension. It's independent rear suspension. I've put a 5-speed Toyota gearbox in it because I want to be able to drive it on the road.
And how long have you had it?
I got it in 2015. I had an Anglia, 105E Anglia, and I had a bad crash in it at Wakefield and wrote it off. And it was one of these gear meetings, and it was our Christmas party, and we were having our Christmas party afterwards, and the chap that owned this, they called David Gleam, he came up and he said, I don't like to talk to a man when he's down, but I'm thinking of selling the little red car. Oh, gee whiz. And on the way home, myself and the wife discussed what I'd do, and I said, I know where there's another body, I'll grab that, just make a rough race car, not a road car like the other Anglia was. She said, how long will that take? I said, about 3 months. She said, well, that's 9, so... And she said, why don't you buy something that's already going that you can develop? I just happen to know where there's this little red car. So I went down and bought that. David had bought it out from England with him. It had been his family's road car in England. Because when I bought, his wife said, I was pregnant with the daughter in that, to look after it. But he's got quite a nice collection of cars. Yeah. He's quite unwell at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah. But had some quite rare things, and this was one of them. Yeah. And
it is fabulous, and I saw it early on, and I saw you out on the track in it earlier as well. I thought, to your point, it looks very European, but at the time when so many of these smaller manufacturers in the UK were getting the moulds out and building cars, and what they produced is absolutely sensational.
Yes, some of them were. if you look up tornadoes and go into the history of tornadoes, some of the things they made were pretty ugly. But then they did bring out one called a Typhoon, I think it was, and it was an open sports car, and it looked quite good, and it did quite well competitively. Then they decided to draw these, and my theory is that 5 of them sat down with a 1959 motoring yearbook and each picked a corner of a car they liked, and some clever person drew it all together. But they had an aluminium buck made to make the mould off, which is pretty sort of advanced stuff. And as I said, they made 168 of them, and it's a fun thing to drive. I'm only driving it on radial tyres. I'm the only car here at the whole meeting today that's on radial tyres. Everyone else is on racing tyres. I walked there and had a look. So it's a bit slow in corners and things, but I just enjoy driving it. And the people come up and talk about it because they just don't know what it is. Oh, what's this? Someone said, "Oh, is this from Czechoslovakia?"
I don't think it looks very Skoda-ish, but they probably did do something similar, I suppose.
It's got, when you look at there, you can see bits of Alfa, you can see bits of Skoda, you can see bits of Lancia. You can't see anything British about it, but it's got, standard 10 tail lights and the usual BMC little round blink lights. It used to have it's got fiberglass bumper bars, but it had overriders on the bumper bars. It was steel overriders with rubber inserts. They came off Simca Rons, and I got a big list with it that came when you bought them new, telling you all the different bits of cars that they used on them.
Well, it's absolutely amazing. I'll look out for it on the track when you're out this afternoon. Thank you for your time. It's great to be introduced to one of these.
Oh, thank you. It's always nice talking about it. And you said it is a rare car, and people don't see them in Australia because I said there's only 2 of them, and the other one that's now at Wollongong, it should be on the road, but I haven't heard from him for a couple of years, so I'm not sure. But he was last time I spoke to him, it was just as a road car. It was very close. So at least we know there's 2 of them out and about.
Well, thanks for your time.
Oh, my pleasure.